Hello and welcome to the Enterprise Talk Conversation Series, a peer knowledge resource by the CXOs for the CXOs. Now to our host, Kanika Goswami.
Hi, we welcome you to a podcast on stage with enterprise thought leaders. My name is Kanika Goswami and I'm the managing editor of OnDot's B2B enterprise technology publications, where we have engaging conversations with industry experts and thought leaders. The latest official statistics on cybersecurity breaches survey reveals a worrying trend. Cybersecurity responsibility at board level has steadily declined since 2021, down from 38% to just 27% of businesses. This comes at a time when threats like ransomware are increasing year on year. To discuss this new paradigm, we speak with David Shepard. He's the Senior Vice President EMEA at Ivanti. And he'll be talking to us about why declining leadership accountability is a major concern for enterprises today. Welcome to the show, David. It's lovely to have you here with us today.
Thank you. Great to be here as well.
David is a Senior Vice President EMEA Sales for Ivanti, responsible for overseeing the region's go-to-market team and strategic approach for sales. He has been with Ivanti for more than 22 years, first joining in sales roles with predecessor brands AppSense and LANDesk. He's contributed significantly to the growth and success of the region, played a crucial role in the company's overall growth strategy. He holds a business information technology degree from Bournemouth University. Is there anything you want to add there, David?
No, absolutely. I will take that introduction. Sounds wonderful. So brilliant.
Oh, great. So the point of the bone of contention. Why is declining leadership accountability a major concern for enterprises as far as cybersecurity strategies or investments, if I can say so, are concerned?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting point, because actually we look at one line of research and we show the feelings of, accountability is declining, and yet we do have other streams of research that are showing that actually there is a board awareness, and the boards are having conversations around cybersecurity. And I mean, you can't miss it, right? Cybersecurity, I think, probably is daily in the press at the moment. So, the kind of the risk threats that are out there today are increasing. So it is a board conversation. But I think there are potentially challenges to the accountability levels within an organization when something does happen. So you can have an awareness. And in fact, a recent survey we also ran, we're constantly running surveys within Ivanti. We like to understand what's out there. Our latest one, we went out and we talked to 88,000 IT professionals. And in that, it actually 89% did say that cybersecurity was a board level conversation. But then actually beyond that, what percentage of those organizations are mapping out accountability, mapping out the processes when issues do hit, mapping out security roadmaps in the future to understand what technology and what risk that brings to an organization as well. So it's definitely an interesting point in terms of awareness versus accountability as well.
So I just had a doubt about this this point that we were just talking about.
Yeah.
When you say board accountability, are you also taking into account the power that the board has to sanction budgets for cybersecurity tools, especially if it is innovative or newer tools, which have not been very well tried and tested, and the CIO or the CISO still asks for a budget? The board has a responsibility too for agreeing or sanctioning it, right? So how do you see that happening? Are people open to it, or do they still think it's not too much is required, we can do with what we've got kind of an attitude?
I think they're more open to spend now, but actually you've got to spend responsible. But there is always with cybersecurity an unknown, and that is that's when board conversations, have to understand potentially how fast is the threat landscape evolving. And they obviously lean on their own experts for that within an organization. So the CISO will bring that information in. But again, the looking at what we're going to implement, how we're going to stay ahead as an organization, and sometimes looking across at the competition and thinking, wow, they may have been breached or attacked, or could that be us next? means that actually they should be promoting spend and should be encouraging getting the right tools in place. But those tools do need to be tested. They need to be evaluated within an organization, and they also need to be understood, I suppose. Not just, we don't just open a budget up and then spend on the next best tool because we think that's going to solve the problem. Interestingly, again, just leaning back on some of the research we do, we look into 81% of board of directors do include someone with cybersecurity expertise in the conversation, right? So again, organizations calling that out. So if you get the balance right, you can make the right investment at the right time. By the way, the spend is always going to go up. It's possibly not an area you're going to be able to save some money in.
No, but for something as critical as cybersecurity, the focus should not be on saving in any case, don't you think?
Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So, and then that leads us to the question. There are silos throughout the organization, and I'm sure for senior leadership as well, there are silos as far as duties, responsibilities, awareness levels are concerned, right?
Yeah.
So, what is the impact of these leadership silos on the response for cyber risks in any organization?
Yeah, so this, I think, is, again, so we tie down, we talk about accountability, we talk about awareness. If we then go into an organization, you will find silos, right? Non-technology, you'll find silos. Anywhere within an organization that has teams, you will find silos, right? And we try and collaborate, we try and work across silos, right? But it's difficult. We're all on our day-to-day activities, we're all driving goals. They are often combined, but it creates silos, right? That's just an organizational view of the world, I suppose. However, when you look at IT and you look at security, again, you have two organizations that are driving to a common goal. One is we want to offer tools, we want to offer our employees the best IT experience they can possibly have. At the same time, we want to give our IT folk the ability to manage that environment in the most efficient way possible. And then you have security that are driving to ensure that everything that is done is secure and doesn't expose us to some form of bad actor, a threat that is out there. So it does create silos because the immediate goal is not the same. One is protection, one is enablement, let's say. So again, some of the people we surveyed, 58% of organizations we talk to, 62% of organizations we talk to say that there are silos between IT and security down at a data level. So that can be as simple as security not understanding the full view or the full insight of the IT estate. It might not be understanding where an employee or a user is logging in from. So understanding the context of what IT are doing, right? And that's not because IT are hiding it. IT are just working on their day-to-day activity. And actually, the whole way that the two teams operate, it kind of creates a natural silo. And organizations do attempt to fix it. But again, I think the high percentage there shows that things move so fast that it's a very difficult problem to solve.
And also because the CIO and the CISO may not, they are actually contenders for the same budgets. They're contenders for the same kind of importance at the board, if I may say, at the table, corner office, whatever you want to call it.
I think you're right. And again, that sounds negative, doesn't it? It sounds like there's resistance, but it's not. It's just we operate in the same world, and we again want both our areas to be fully functioning and get the required resource, the required budgets that they need as well.
Right. So, and this is an extracurricular question. What do you think IT leaders or security leaders can do better in terms of communicating the significance of a cyber attack to the other side or to the board? Do you think the communication is an issue there? Soft skills are an issue, or we just don't have the channels of communication set in place to, get the idea across, the criticality of the situation?
Yeah, I think so. Here's the good thing, and this is what is generating positive conversations. Everyone in an organization needs to understand what happens if there is a threat or if there is a breach, more importantly, right? So breaches, by the way, are up year over year. Average cost of a breach in 2024 was 4.8 million. So it's again, like budgets, these numbers are going up as well. But what it means is that we need to understand what each department, each part of the business does when a cyber threat occurs. If we take IT and we take security, again, we are talking to organizations now that are building out roadmaps to understand what each organization are doing, but how those two roadmaps will interlock. If we understand that, we start to understand what is happening in each organization, what data needs to be shared, but then also what needs to happen if they're, if in an event there is a breach, what is the impact? That actually then drives the communication as well. We have organizations that we're talking to now that are driving between 1 year to 3 year roadmaps of IT and security, right? And as soon as you've got that visibility, you start to see where the gaps are, and you start to see that where the actual silos really form. But actually, part of that roadmap, you need to have communication in there as well. So it's without communication and without that understanding, again, if we're all in the dark, we really, it starts to create a slowness. Again, 41%, this is a good stat, I think, 41% of IT workers currently say that most help desk tickets are about security incidents, right? So that could be an entry point to a conversation that is what's I trying to say? Sorry, but that could be an entry point into kind of where the communication flow starts, as an example. Do we know what happens if one of those security incidents is a bridge? How do we address that? Well, actually, then on top of that, 44% of organizations say that solving a security problem is slowed down by the silos that are in place. So whether it's understanding the technology or understanding the roadmap or understanding the communication, if we don't have a clear view of that between the silos, then everything slows straight away.
So do you agree that there's a need to shift from a reactive defense to proactive risk management, which would include proactive risk assessment, predictive, some kind of tools to be used, or some kind of activities which are scheduled on a regular basis? Do you think that's more important, or reactive defense?
Yeah, I think I'm 25 years in this year. And over those 25 years, whether I've worked within kind of pure IT organizations or where there's security being mindful, whether it's remediating a user problem or solving a security challenge, if we can be proactive, we get one step ahead. Why do we need to be one step ahead at the minute? AI is driving innovation at a rate of knots. It's going to make your life, my life, most employees' life easier at some point, whether it's just using generative AI, whether it's just using something that speeds up a day-to-day task. Well, the flip of that is the bad actors out there take AI and it immediately accelerates the kind of the threat that we're going to be faced with, So things like phishing are now on the increase. Why? Because we can be more clever with AI on how we create content, on how the look and feel of those emails, right? So if we're just going to be reactive, we just have not got a chance to keep up, because it was fast enough without AI. Now with the introduction of AI and AI becoming mainstream, it's becoming really, really challenging. So proactive is all about understanding your threat landscape. Proactive is understanding your attack surface. Where am I likely to be exposed? Is that a human being like you or I and clicking on a link? Or is that a access into my network? Is there a door open somewhere? It's understanding what we can do. By actually looking at our exposure, as we term it, we can start to understand that, well, actually, this is our threat landscape. This is our attack surface. And the bigger that is, the more challenging it's going to be if problems do occur as well. That immediately becomes a proactive mindset. understanding what's in my IT estate as an example, understanding where all my users connect in from is another thing, understanding what technology we use to maybe prevent phishing attacks. Does that technology stay further ahead? What do I do if I have vulnerability spotted in my software? How am I going to patch the technology? So all those things start to create a proactive way of resolving the challenges and staying one step ahead, almost expecting that we are going to be breached at some point, is not a bad mindset to keep us proactive.
And this is just for my information. Do you think, would you top of the mind recall any instances where proactively security risks have been identified and hence they have been able to prevent much larger damage in terms of attacks and their repercussions?
Yeah, we've got a few. I mean, one of the kind of the areas that I've been involved in a lot over the years is patching, kind of a bland subject, but actually when we've got when there's a vulnerability in a tool or a piece of software that's being used in the environment, understanding that needs patching is key, right? So the typical way over the years of been doing that is to get the CVE, understand that there's a challenge, and then we patch. Okay. Well, actually, nowadays we can actually be more intelligent than that and remove the human interaction, and we can actually get proactive with looking for the vulnerabilities that are out there, actually understanding the priority of that vulnerability to us as an organization, not looking at another organization, but understanding that, because actually if we look at another organization, a vulnerability might be less important because they don't use the tool or it's not relevant to what they do. But actually for us in a certain sector, then actually it's important. So we need to prioritize that, and we need to do that and potentially do that automatically, not do it once we've been breached, reacting to it, but actually trying to stay one step ahead. The other part as well is also just looking for patterns. So trying to understand, again, it could even be on the user side, right? Just trying to understand if there's challenges with the user. If we see a user having a certain number of challenges that could create a security incident, we fix it for that user. But then also what we do is we actually automate it so that it fixes it for the whole IT estate as well. So taking a more holistic view of all the data we've got and understanding again the exposure and the threat that causes. But into the proactivity and the automation really then, that intelligence means we're working smarter, not working harder as well.
And finally, do you think exposure management can help businesses stay ahead of threats?
Yes.
Or better exposure management?
Better exposure management helps us stay ahead, right? Is it going to help us stay ahead forever? Hopefully, yes, but you never say never with security. It really does move at a rate of knots. But without exposure management, if we just use the old world of reacting, trying to pass something from IT over to security, making sure that we try and fix it and stay ahead, then we won't stay ahead. So exposure management is a way for us to look at, get a full 360 view of our IT environment, understand the IT side, understand the security side, potentially align CIOs and CISOs so they are going for the same budget, but they're going to use it across the same roadmap that complements IT and security. And then also it just allows us to even look at our estate and say, look, is all the software or all the tools being introduced, are they safe? Are they ratified? Do they follow certain certifications? Secure by Design in the US is a great initiative that allows software vendors to really get credibility for their software and security, so that then when vendors are introducing that to customers, there's a certain level of reassurance that it's been designed with security in mind as well. But absolutely, I mean, without exposure management, you're never going to keep ahead at all. It's just an impossibility. So it's a really keen part, and it does reduce it reduces your threat landscape immediately. It reduces your attack surface immediately as well.
So that is it. Those are the questions I could think of. Is there anything you think I've missed here that our audiences may want to know about?
No, I think in summary, I always use this phrase. I always think that we're in security, you're never going to be as far ahead as you want it to be. The only advantages of today, by the way, is security is the threat is slightly less than it's going to be tomorrow, right? So we have to be mindful of that. And if we're siloed in an organization, we're one step behind again. If we don't think about being proactive, we're one step behind again. So if we understand our attack surface, we understand our exposure, sort of in that paranoid way, we start to get ahead, right? And that's really good in terms of it's not a revolutionary way of thinking, but it definitely is something that all organizations should be looking to evolve into.
Yeah. And also leadership taking more accountability for security decisions.
Top down, without a doubt. Because do you know what? A breach, that impacts a brand, that really impacts right at the top as well. So, and I think, that running in a proactive way does encourage that top-down approach as well.
Right. So we can stop there. Thank you so much, David, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us. Please do follow us on social media for regular updates and new content.